Okay, third time is a charm. Um, my name is Stephen Webb, and I live here in San Diego, California, and my education background is in geography. So we'll be going over a lot of maps in my research. Um, this is about my research, what I've been researching for the last 5 years. Um, how I started doing this was um, I had a Facebook friend who showed me a documentary called Endgame, based on the United States, um, and kind of like the conspiracy of who's running the world. Um, why I'm doing this is to help educate people who might not know about this. It takes a lot of time to research and go through all the book sources and everything, so not everybody can do it. So I spent the time doing it, so it should be very educational. Um, so I'll just go ahead and get started. This is just an introduction. This first video that I'm doing right now is just an introduction. I gotta kind of talk quietly because my family is sleeping behind me, and I just wanted to go ahead and just make this video anyways. So I'm pretty sure you guys can hear me. I'll try to talk clear. Um, so this video right here is just an introduction to my research, and it's just to kind of get you to think about some different things that I think about, and to give you kind of an understanding of where I'm coming from, so you can determine, whether you want to spend time watching my videos or not. It's up to you, but I plan to make it a series of videos. This is just an introduction. There's not a lot of sources used in this um, video, so don't try to base it on facts. So I'll just go ahead and get started. Um, from my research, I developed an understanding of the universal function of duality. So that's kind of one of the things I discovered while researching, specifically of good and evil. Once I realized this, I noticed that it was visible within our own government, seen within the separation of the Democratic and Republican parties, and quite possibly in the separation of the Catholic and Protestant religions. It's clear that early civilization, even before Egypt and Sumer, had the concept of duality. It seems clear to me that they understood that there couldn't be one without the other. Duality is a universal law. I can now see that the duality of good and evil has always been a part of our human existence. For instance, God was seen as good when things went the way that the people wanted them to go. However, God, or the Great Spirit, could become angry with the people showing its evil side. Or it could be that, or we also see that um, a direct separation of a good God and an evil God, such as Ra and Set. These Egyptian ancestral myths are necessary to understand duality because it has been continuous since then and hasn't stopped. We always have two sides fighting each other. The experts that I use as my sources specialize in specific disciplines. because of this, all the research is not combined, and it's in fragments scattered about the earth. The researcher is responsible for putting the puzzle together in order to create a comprehensive collection of facts that, when put together, create a story that is understandable. The stories of Ra, Set, Horus, and Isis are stories giving examples of duality, an agonist against an antagonist. Duality is like a dichotomy: good versus evil, positive versus negative, female, male, etc. Math is the language that was created by God in order to figure out the mysteries of the universe. The mysteries of the universe are the true mysteries. Math can be used to understand duality and to prove God's existence. That's why He created math. However, um, our critical thought, our critical thoughts are more powerful than math itself. Following the signs, your imagination, vivid and lucid dreams are all more powerful than math. Anything that we can imagine is really possible. A profession that uses critical thought and math to try and solve these thoughts are theoretical physicists. The Egyptian state itself, the beliefs, and its kingship or kinship are the roots of Western culture up and into the USA today. I feel as if the US is or should be a force of good, but restrained by duality. Okay, so let's start talking. Let's use Google Earth here. So this is Google Earth. If you haven't seen it before, let's take this stuff off. Okay. So what I wanted to show and talk about here was Africa. And I wanted to specifically look at it as at a view from outside of Earth. If we can turn Earth around and zoom in, then what does it look like? Looks like maybe like a reptile or a dinosaur with a horn. If you chop this horn off, maybe a snake kind of reptile with Lake Victoria kind of looking like the eye. The mouth is over here, the neck. So the continents weren't always there. They formed and they came up out of the water. Before they came up, Earth was just all covered with water. So that would actually be the first flood that we can talk about. That would be the very first one. So when the continents came up, they first formed two separate supercontinents, right? And that can maybe be also looked at. The duality aspects of that can probably be looked at. Just like we can compare the continent of Africa to all the other continents. What do they look like? You know, what could you say that they look like? But we're going to focus on Africa. If we flip it this other way, upside down, let's see. Now what does it look like? To me, it looks kind of like a chicken with a big, huge brain. Here's a beak. Here's his eye. Or like a bird or something, or with small little feet. Here's his backside. It's kind of like a face of Earth. So if you're looking out from space at Earth and you're at this distance, this can maybe be looked at as a face, you know. Or if you flip it around, this is like Earth looking back at you. So if this was a if we said that this was a bird, that would go along with what the Egyptians say in their creation story. In one of their creation stories. So in the Egyptian creation story at Heliopolis, which is also called, Heliopolis is the Greek name of the city in Egypt. The Hebrew name is On, O-N, and the Egyptian name is Anu, A-N-N-U. So at this city, this is like the city of the sun, their creation story is that this, what they call the Bin Bin bird, rose up out of the waters of Nu, or the primordial abyss. So when Earth was all water, the bird, or Africa, the continent of Africa, rose up out of the water, creating life on it and a place for life to stand and live on it. So that's in their creation story. Goes back thousands of years that they already seem to have known this or thought this. Or knew in the future that somebody would know it. So we're going to be talking on the next video. We're going to be talking about East Africa, and we're going to be talking about the origins of man, starting 30 million years ago with the primate proconsul. That will be the next video. But we're specifically going to be talking about the Great Rift Valley, which it runs like, there's a rift right here, the Western Rift, then there's the Eastern Rift that's right here, if you can see this little, my cursor, and it runs all the way down from Mozambique, all the way up like this, through East Africa, through Ethiopia, through the Afar Triangle, up through here and through into Israel. Right, so that's the area of the two tectonic plates meeting together. And inside the rift in Ethiopia and in Kenya, there's many lakes inside there with water. And right here close to Lake Victoria, just south right here in Kenya, specifically in Kenya, right here in this area is where man started, just south of the equator, in this specific location. Um, Based on, there's a lot of fossil sites right here. The, the fossils are dated to tens of millions of years ago, all the way up to the Middle Stone Age. So like about 400,000 years ago. And Lake Victoria wasn't here until 400,000 years ago. There wasn't a lake here. So something to do with this area. There was a depression in this area which got filled with water eventually, but before then, maybe it was a moist area where when it rained, it kept this area inside here moist with water, but not an actual lake. And that's where man thrived and began. And other great apes and other ape-like species, other human-like species, human ancestors, primates. You're close to the what this what is it called? Serengeti Plain is just right over here, so you're close to it. Um, so there's like thousands and thousands of different mammals in this area, and we're really concerned specifically with what's most like us, which are mammals. Um, uh, so 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 humans really have a connection with Earth. That's important to understand. It's important to understand that the Earth is alive. It's not dead, it's alive, and all of its systems working together are helping to keep it alive, and it's continually either evolving or getting old and dying, just like us. Um, so we have a special connection to the Earth. The Egyptian Earth god, his name was Seb. So it's interesting because I think that's another proof that the Egyptians already knew about duality, because in duality you also have your, you know, your two counterparts, right? So the Egyptian earth god Seb, right? He was considered the father of Earth, but a lot of people think that Earth is Mother Earth. So I think they kind of already knew. They put the father and the mother together with Earth. Um, So what I'm trying to say there is, dual is also dual as in representing both forms. Matter being positive and negative, or female and male at the same time. So sex developed after life already developed. So initially life didn't need a sex. So we are comparing objects that are similar to each other, specifically their counterpart or their antagonist or agonist. Also, the mathematical model of the universe should be comparable to every scale size, such as the universe compared to a human cell. So what I'm trying to say here is that at every scale size, with every object, they're comparable. So if we compare the universe to a human cell, within the universe should within there should be the same parts that are within a human cell within the universe, meaning they do the same thing, they have the same function. They're not actually the same because one is biology and one is of the universe, but there's a DNA in a cell, and there's something that's similar to DNA in the universe. There's mitochondria in a cell, there's something similar to mitochondria in the universe. There's um, an energy source within the cell, there's an energy source within the universe, and so on, etc. And you can model that all the way down to smaller size, smaller than a cell, and smaller size, larger than a universe. It will also duplicate, like a cell will duplicate, mitochondria will duplicate itself. I think that the universe also duplicates itself and can, can connect together with multiple universes, forming um, another structure or organ like a human cell does, that all works together, and so on. Um, so, because of what physicists say, that the net output of what is it, energy within the universe is zero, or always should equal zero, then we would say that duality has to be balanced. It should be. And I think that a good example of that is if you look in our current um, political parties with the Democrats and the Republicans. Um, it seemed that the Democrat Democratic Party has been dominating for a while now, at least for all the 8 years of Obama's term. Um, they got a lot more voters, and you can see that within Hillary Clinton's votes. She got something like 2.5 or 3 million extra votes, so she's actually got the popular vote. So it seems that the Republican Party noticed that, or other people outside of the party noticed that, and they realized that they had to balance that out, which is what's going on right now. Uh, we want to explain the importance of words. So also in my research, I found out that words became very important because you're dealing with a lot of different cultures. You're dealing with African culture, um, Middle Eastern culture, European culture, and you have to compare words because they spell them just a little bit differently. Um, the stories, the mythological stories of Egypt, seem to be just uh, just translated into other languages. And it's just the same stories told over in a new language. So etymology of words, the origin of words, is very important. Um, so you have to study that also at the same time as you're studying history. So what my daughter said Africa looked like when it's positioned like this, looking like a dinosaur or something, she thought that it was a camel. Um, I don't know where she came up with that, but that's a good example of an important word that you should look at. Because if you spell it with a K, so Kamel, instead of with a C, because Egyptians didn't use the C, the ancient Egyptians didn't use the C. So you got Kam, which is Cam, which is a name for Egypt, and then you got El, which is the name of the uh, like the the Israeli god El, um, which is like equivalent to Set, the Egyptian god Set. So you got and also Egyptians read from right to left, so you got Set's Egypt, or Set in Egypt, or Egypt, the land of Set, or Egypt and Set. So also, if you look at the word like evolution, it starts with EV. You look at Eve, EVE. You look at evil, EVIL. Or you look at the RE, the prefix of republic. RE is used in so many different words like rebirth, um, reincarnate, uh, a whole bunch. Or you look at DE and Democrat. Um, look at the etymology of DE. The sun is also known as the egg or the eye. So if you think of Earth before there's any continents, and it's just the egg, it's just filled with water, and it's about to have birth of the continents coming out, of the land coming out. Um, so if you're looking at the bird, so you can kind of solve what came first, the chicken or the egg. So the egg came first, and the chicken came out of the egg. It's the same with the sun. They saw um, they saw the sun as being able to create or give birth, so that's why they called it the egg. And the reason why they called it the eye is you can think about if you're on Earth, the face, you're looking out from Earth and you're looking out into space. And that's the face of God. They considered that the face of God. The sun was one of the eyes, and at night the moon would become the other eye. So God only had one eye at a time. In day he only had one eye, at night he only had one eye. So that was his two eyes. Um, and man is the representation of God on earth. So the third eye can be, like I said, I consider this the third eye. I consider earth the third eye, but on the face of earth, we have an eye right here where man originated. Right? It's not a coincidence that man originated here. Um, we also need to know that science is religion, and it's based on man's thoughts and beliefs. So you can't try to separate the two, because they're the same. You'll find out, like, once you start researching a lot, you'll and when you try to start to get to the roots of things, you'll understand that you can't separate things, and you'll notice that man, um, right? So science is religion based on man's thoughts and beliefs. The result is evolution. Beliefs came from man in nature, his observations and experiences, or experiments. This is science. We are connected to Earth, connected to the sun and the moon. All of these, okay, and to our planet, our other planets, and to the Milky Way. So one thing that I kind of noticed about, we can see that here, actually. So let's zoom in. Let's flip Africa back around. Okay, what am I doing? Oh, so let's go over here and see what it looked like. So let's say we're here at the border of Egypt. At the border of Egypt, you got Nubians and Egyptians in ancient times. Now, if they were here in Egypt and they were looking up at the sky, look, look at their view of what they have of the Milky Way. Looks like my it's a milestone. See their view that they have of the Milky Way? And it's even better than that, actually. Um, but what I just noticed was that the Milky Way actually looks like a giant snake through the sky, curving through the sky, like a half of a moon, or like a half of a Earth, the top portion. Or sometimes it'll just be coming straight from the horizon and coming up, and it kind of looks like maybe like a dragon tail or something. Um, I got stuck on here. Let's see. Okay, so back up. So you can tell from that they had a great view. It's so dark there that it had a great view of all the night sky. So they were observing and could see everything at night. Um, so what I don't really like to use the word God. I just use it because it's just a universal word that everybody uses to explain the creator. Um, I like to call God intelligence, because I believe that it's actual intelligence itself, and that it's within side of everybody, and within the universe as well. So it came from the universe. It's in the universe. It's wherever you can find, um, like molecular hydrogen, or wherever life is being created. It should be there. It has a specific function. I don't see God as the whole universe. I see it as something that's within inside of the universe, trying to live and trying to survive, um, and forever becoming more intelligent. Uh, Intelligence is forever evolving for a purpose. Um, it duplicates itself to preserve itself. Our solar system developed from a protoplanetary disk, which formed from a molecular cloud of H2. So hydrogen, I feel that hydrogen is a main component of intelligence or God, but not actually God itself. Hydrogen helps to create life in its path. Um, Earth, I believe Earth is alive and active, and the rift area and all the volcanoes and everything else that are within this area in East Africa where man originated is very active. It's alive. The whole crust, everything here is very active. Um, the So there had to be a reason for. I feel that there has to be a specific reason why our life form came into existence in this specific area, and I feel like it has to do with something that would increase intelligence. Um, something that might be ingredients within the water that they were drinking. That's what I think specifically, actually. Um, the minerals, the vitamins, whatever was in this area, it helped. However, man got a hold of it, it helped him to develop um, differently and distinguishable from the other great apes. It's important to note that um, this wasn't actually the first area where they looked for fossils. They actually looked in Europe and they looked in Asia, and they couldn't find anything um, old enough because they didn't have anything to compare it to. While here in East Africa, you know, the landmass and everything on here, the volcanoes and everything, they can get better and older dates, which is why they were able to which is why they focused specifically on this area and found the so many old fossils here still preserved. So I'm gonna end that video here. Please do me a favor and like my video, subscribe to it. This is just video one, just an introduction. We're gonna start talking about actual facts and research on the next video, and we'll start here in East Africa, and we'll start talking about these early sites and the origin of man and everything here. We'll talk more about hydrogen. We'll talk about sulfur. um, we're going to talk about how they moved from where, how they split up, which way they went. So we'll be showing some maps, but we'll be right here in this location on our next video. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.